I don't just main one civ, I play loads of different civs, says Gully Deckle, and then proceeds to pick HRE, the civ that we know him from for his 100% win rate on the HRE at the start of the season. Now, that win rate has been tattered and battered a bit, but Gully is still fighting the good fight. In fact, time of recording, let's check what his ranking is sitting at. Gully Deckle's down to 251st in the world. Let's hope he doesn't get sandbagged by this person, because Sandman is none other than Team Liquid's Dumu. Looking to plow on through with the Abbasids. Wait, is that a Zutsu statue? I'd expect nothing else from wonderful ball boy resident. So yeah, Abbasids versus HRE. That's a pretty cool matchup. Especially considering the way that the HRE has evolved in the most recent season. That they aren't just this all-in fast castle type civ. They're now a civ that can flex feudal age. That's going to make this a lot more intriguing, especially considering that feudal age is really where the Abbasids try to thrive. Double scout opener already making it a bit spicy as well from Gully. Makes a lot of sense, right? Like, the thing that I really love about double scout compared to one is double scout gives you a level of agency over your choices that doesn't really exist on one scout. And what I mean by that is if you're, for example, going to do long feudal, sure, whatever, it's different already. But if you're going for the classic castle, something we noticed a few months back with the classic castle rush build is the 2 scout opener was really sick. I think Core was the guy doing it most frequently because what it done is it put Burgrave on the table as an alternative. That's really smart because when you play 1 scout, if you want to go fast castle, your opponent already knows exactly what you're going to do. When you go 2 scouts like this, it keeps Dumu guessing. Another really important thing about it is for how quickly you munch for those sheep, you kind of need the extra scout as well just to contest a berry civ. I've got a funny feeling like maybe berries in some way, the berry civs will get nerfed at that angle because it's something that makes it very, very easy for them to just kind of play very loose with their scouting, right? And that's why we've seen like Delhi, Abbasid, these are civs that always end up getting the majority of sheep unless they're incredibly unlucky. Like statistically on average, they will end up with more sheep than the non-berry civs simply because the others have to come back and drop off sooner. You hate it when people go, oh my god, he's got another sheep. It has a sheep, one more than Lucifron. Yeah, like, I mean, I'm always reminded of the time, was it me and Winston where we basically, like, we kind of mocked that with a mirror. Do you guys remember that? It was fun enough, like, it's relevant to this because it's an Abbasid mirror. So we've got one half of it. It was an Abbasid mirror, and then we got, like, really pretentiously nitpicky. Like, oh, I can't believe this. He sent his villagers onto the looser berries. It's going to make him less efficient on his timing by 5 seconds, which is going to lose him the game. Oh, we just don't get to do that anymore because there's never mirrors in competitive anymore. Which is, I mean, in fairness, is probably a good thing. But military wing now on the way. So this is to be expected. You want to try and apply some pressure in the HRE. If this is a feudal play HRE, I just don't like the melee wing as much anymore because you're just inherently playing to something that's going to be a loss for you, right? Like, I think your goal here should be to go 2TC while distracting with this, and it looks like Dumu agrees. So the military wing units are simply going to keep attention at Gully's base while Dumu goes for 2TC. The interesting part is Gully is going for that classic fast castle we talked about. And he has got enough sheep to consider a Burgrave rush, which would make a lot of sense on a map like this. Burgrave on Cliffside is really strong because of how close you are to the enemy base. Dumu's smart move here would be to wall the short ramp. He should understand what this is when he scouts it out and just simply wall this ramp here so that if it is a Burgrave spam, your opponent can't reach you quickly. In fact, I'd say you wall here and here. And at that point, it takes a lot longer for your opponent to reach you. Sheep and Civ drafts seem like they decide 70% of the match in for hand of who will win. I don't feel that's entirely like true in its full encompassing factor. Like what I mean by that is like, you know, it still requires perfect execution. It's why I'm very careful when I call a game. Like I'm fairly convinced that the outcome is already there, right? Because we can see the full picture. And you have to be conscious. Like a player won't just register it's over because they can't see everything. But on top of that, you know. Oh my god, he got like 2 extra sheep. That's not a GG, right? It's not even close. The really important thing to keep in mind when you like want to be a commentator, not even just when you want to be a commentator, when you're viewing these experiences. Perfect example, Malians versus English. I could just say the game's already over because Malians dominate English. Or my brain could be like, okay, how does English with Council Hall beat Malians here? Like, what is the build? You go down the rabbit hole. Because, to be honest, if you don't do that, like, what are you going to talk about for 20 minutes? Right? The reality is, like, you know, when I hear people go, oh, GG, he got outdrafted, it's like, okay, yeah, but he still has to execute. Because, like, if all that mattered is that you outdrafted, then players, it would be like playing rock, paper, scissors, right? Like, imagine if Dumu and Gully entered this game, they saw H3 versus Abbasids, right? And then just, like, Dumu goes, GG, and leaves, right? It's just not how RTSs work. It's one thing to get an advantage, just another to close the game. That's why people can adhere to and worship and follow Beastie's perfect like build order on what to do for 10 minutes. But the moment the 10 minutes are up, and like, okay, I'm in an advantageous position, but now how do I actually win the game? Is like the big puzzle, right? And no, we don't look at the sacred sites. I've talked with Biddlin about this. Like, it's actually sad because Cliffside, in my opinion, is borderline an S tier map. The only thing holding it back is legit this. That this can happen. I think, like, outside that, it's almost perfect. It's a fantastic map. It's not too defensive. You can actually play very aggressive. The distance between bases makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of good things here. Most civs can actually play Cliffside. It's very rare you see a civ that just feels completely worthless here. But the triple sacred site inconsistency, because those that don't know, this one shouldn't be here. This one should be down here. And there's no real reason it's not. Like, I think that change is the only thing holding it back from being almost on the level of Dry Arabia. Burgrave now coming from Gully. So we called it, right? Like, I mean, it kind of makes a lot of sense here, especially when you go the double scout, you have the option. It's a short ramp. A ramp that Dumu has not walled off, by the way. And in a game where he's gone 2 TC, he's going archer ranges. If you're wondering why is Dumu building archers against men-at-arms, he's not. It's Camel Archers. Camel Archers have high base damage and can kite. This is a very smart call. This is actually the Abbas's best move up against the Burgrave spam. I've seen it a few times. It's pretty damn effective. Typically, you want to be starting to scale sooner than this, though. Like, you're talking about a Burgrave timing. These units are going to surge out. And your first Camel Archers, your first 2, are still 20 seconds away. Gold spots can be bad for Malians, sure, but you can still get 2 safe gold pit mines, and usually there's like a third one that's fairly feasible around here, right? Like, I don't think it's not fantastic for Malians. There's a bit of RNG, but like, I don't think it's an unplayable map for Malians at all. There are better maps for sure, but it doesn't mean they can't win here, right? Like, that's what you're looking for in maps. Like, is there a map where like, oh my god, blah blah can't play this map, right? Because if you have a map that's designed that way, then it's pretty bad. But to me, like Cliffside, I don't think there's many civs that don't feel viable in some way or form here. Camels reveal themselves. Steel Arrow already being queued up. Love that read as well, because Gully's already gone for the Undermesh. Yeah, this is pure sadness for Gully. I have to wonder if maybe... Could 2TC H3 work better? So you build a few archers and then you build your second TC on a delay. Because like, it sounds bad because you know Bastards will build their second TC quicker. But it's not as terrible as you think when you consider the Archon buffs you up in the meantime. It's like, yeah, you might be 5 villages behind, but you know, most of your economy is getting buffed by 40%. You're actually economically ahead by quite a difference. You know, the funny thing is, like, with the way this is likely to trend now of being Burgrave, Dumu could actually just win in Feudal. He doesn't need to go Castle. He can build up to 20 Camel Archers. Gully's critical blunder here is he needs to build archery ranges. And he needs to build them fast. I don't like that he keeps building men-at-arms, because this shouldn't work, right? Like, you're going to run into a blob of camels soon. And what makes it worse is what Dumu's doing. Dumu is intercepting you before you're in his base. Let's say that. Looks like we have got 2 diving into the main, but like 2 here, I mean, that's a death sentence, right? You think, okay, he idles out the enemy, but it's actually worse this way because he's not reaching critical mass. The only way Gully can win this game is if he gets to 25 men-at-arms. But like, I don't see how that happens, right? By the time you get 25 men-at-arms, the way that Dumu is pulling you back like this, he's going to be at, what, 22 to 28 Camel Archers, roughly, I reckon? It's a really smart read. Like, the worst thing Ben could have done is just sat at home. Because if you sit at home, yes, you can kite the men-at-arms, but your villagers can't. Oh, this is starting to hurt. 13 damage each. And these men-at-arms, it's not just a tickling, right? They only have 5 ranged armor, so majority of damage is breaching through. And these are units that attack reasonably fast, right? 1.38 seconds per attack, and they can easily gap close you. I think Gully might be a bit dead here. You can see he's lost as well, right? Like, he's not making any sort of conversion. We're not seeing him move for relics, so there's no monastery drop. We're not seeing him switch into archers. He's finally going for the monks now, but, I mean, at this point, it actually does feel too late. Like, Dumu could just stop producing Camel Archers now and go for a tech up. He actually has clean options here. Well, what I'm wondering now is, Gully, how are you even going to get relics? This monastery play would have made sense maybe 2 minutes ago, but I mean, it's not really feasible at that point, right? Because then you weaken your Burgrove timing. Oh no, it's a tough one. I don't think... There's some matchups where Burgrove can dominate. I don't think this is one of them. This is one of the hardest ones, actually, because of the camel detail. In hindsight, Gully probably should have tried to play along feudal with 2 TC. I think that would have been pretty effective here. Maybe not even 2 TC. Like 1 TC and just all-in the Abbasids can be pretty effective, considering you have a 40% gathering speed buff when they don't even have the 15% gathering speed buff yet. It's a huge advantage for the Civ. Camel Archer counting up to 13. And Gully, I mean, the rough part about being up against camels, you can't even go for spearmen, right? Because spearmen get double damage against them. It's like you die even quicker. Gully, funnily enough, now going to horsemen. I'm not a big fan of that. The problem is, like, what? You're now going to build into presumably horsemen with the stables, not knights. But your food income isn't crazy, especially when you're trying to still spam men-at-arms. So, like, you're either dropping 4 stables or you're sprinkling horsemen in while needing a lot of men-at-arms. It just feels like a losing comp. And the spearman detail makes this worse, folks. We already highlighted the bonus damage that comes out against you. If Dimu micros like a goldfish, you win this game. But Dimu is Dimu. And Benny Boy is not a pushover when it comes to micro. One thing that might be able to help Gully is static defenses. Right? Get some outposts with some sprinklers in placements. It might stop dives, but the bigger problem's on the way, right? Dimu teching up with Culture Wing, 55 seconds out now. And it's kind of disgusting considering what's coming down the line, right? Like, he's only got the level 1 blacksmith upgrades in now. Culture Wing into Preservation of Knowledge will make the upgrades past this much more cost efficient. And what that means is even more Camel Archers. Or just an easy switch to Golems. I mean, I am starting to depress for Gully because this is pretty done. You remember what I said where, like, I don't call games before they're over? This game is basically, like, done. Like, there are limitations to legit what you can actually do in a game. And Gully is past the point of return. The Horseman switch is too expensive. It needed to be Archers right as soon as he saw Camel Archers. If he went Burgrave, opens Men-at-Arms, then follows up with double archery range, I think he stands a chance here. But, like, this build just doesn't make sense. Dimu had his number from the get-go. Quite a thing to lose to. Camel Archers only. Pork now on the way. You might be like, well, does he not want to rush the veterancy? No, there's no rush here. You think you could just afford it. I mean, he's sitting on 1,200 gold, but why waste? Crossbow transition also now coming in. It's kind of funny, right? Because, like, crossbows is a terrible unit when you see horsemen coming. Like, actually, what he should be building is either spearmen or golems. But at this point, the lead is so substantial, it simply doesn't matter. And yeah, Dimu could go fast him, which is not something you ever say of the Abbasids. 14 minutes of the game. But it truly is that big of a difference. Relics are at least being returned home. I want to give credit where credit's due to Gully. He has at least found a way of sneaking out for a few of those. I just don't think it really makes up for the eco difference. You know, even with the power of Arkin on his side. The issue also then comes down to one of production, right? Like, transitioning to a new unit type is very slow now. You're stuck on stables, your opponent has got camels. Even built a camel rider to guarantee the aura. He's got knights coming in, which are going to be better than your horsemen. Knights that can easily deal with the men-at-arms, and knights that afterwards can say good night to your eco. Cool build, though. I like that we're actually seeing more and more Camel Archer usage. They did get that recent slight buff where they're 10 resources less each, right? They used to be 180 food. But like, more so than that, it's just, I think players have clocked that this is a fantastic way for Abbasids to match up against tempo-based civs. These tech-based civs, right? They have their clear timings, like Ayubids, like HRE. I'd say more HRE than Ayyubids, but like, you know, any civ that's thinking, I want to meta arm spam you when I age up, Camel Archers is a great answer. Can't believe this 22 vet Camel Archers now diving into the base. Cully, barely any troops to stand and defend with. Just a few lances to hold back the horsemen. I mean, even if you are targeting down these correct targets, and he's not, he's actually attacking the Camel Rider. I guarantee you he thought it was a Camel Archer. In that giant blob, it's such an easy mistake to make. I don't think it would have made any difference either way, though. Game is done. Golly, having a rough time. Down to rank 250. A guy that was formidably in the top 20 at the start of the season is quickly falling down in despair. We'll just have to hope he can recover it soon, but it will not be up against the fabled Benny Boy himself.